This is the Great Debaters Contest, and now we are down to the final two in Eldoret region.
Who will be the ultimate champion? Stay tuned to find out. I am your host, Chris Buru.
And I am Esperanza Kapanga. The determining motion today is gated communities should be abolished in developing countries.
In the proposition are the mighty girls from Metkei Girls High School.
In the opposition are the gentlemen from Kapsabet Boys High School. Proposer number 1, you have 3 minutes.
I'm Faith Cynthia, the first proposer, and I'm here to propose the motion that states gated communities should be abolished in developing countries. First of all, these gated communities are residential communities, or in simple terms, housing properties that are controlled and protected. And to abolish simply means to do away with something. And in this case, to do away with these gated communities. Developing countries, these simply refer to the countries that are unstable in their economical status. And examples of these gated communities, we have many of them that have developed outside Africa and those that are also in Africa. For example, we have here in Kenya, which is a developing country, the Ken Mosa village. We also have the Hillside Estate. And in Uganda, we have the Mirembe Villas. We also have the Age Apartments. In Tanzania, we also have Highland Villas. And in India, which is also a developing country, we have the Gagon Villas. Thirdly, we have types of these gated communities which have been put in place following the economical spectrum or the social spectrum. Under the economical spectrum, we have the working and the non-workable gated communities. And for the social spectrum, we have the racially mixed and the non-racially mixed gated communities. An example of this racially mixed gated community is Retreat at Twin Lake, which is found in South Africa. First of all, these gated communities are not benefiting these African countries and any other developing country like Indonesia and even India. This has been seen in the way that it has encouraged division in the social classes. And I know that this contest upholds this SDG, one of them being number 10, which is reduced inequality. But how can we reduce this inequality if these gated communities that we are developing in these developing countries have them? For example, if you look at these gated communities, the places where they live, we cannot find poor people living around those places, because I am even sure, my dearest people, that even if it would have been you wouldn't be comfortable in such a place, knowing that you are from a low background, yet you are living with people from the high classes as they claim to be. Secondly, these gated communities are bringing down the state of security, since they are target area for the robbers. Even if we claim that they have these CCTV cameras, no. I believe that the safety of the individuals there is at stake. And that's why I propose the motion that goes, gated communities should be abolished in developing countries.
First proposer, you have 3 minutes to make a statement.
Well, people are secluding themselves in gated walls to keep out crime and undesirable antics. Kogo Victor Simwa being my name from Kapsabet High School. I am here to strongly oppose the motion that states that gated communities should be abolished in developing countries. Well, gated communities, what are these communities? Well, these are a form of residential homes that are housing or a housing estate containing people usually characterized mostly by a wall and a common entry point, usually a gate. What are these? What is to abolish? To abolish is to put an end to the use of a system. What are developing countries? Developing countries are countries with a low GDP. And what are some of these reasons that quantify or conceptualize our opposition in this motion. Well, according to history.or.com, in China, the traditional Chinese and ancient Inca civilization, these walled communities were used, where a generation of families lived together, and the compound walls used to serve as a common neat point, where we could easily see that this is not our village, this is a neat wall. It brings the difference between this village and this village. So these walls were used in the ancient Chinese and in the Inca civilization. During the medieval period, towns were controlled by royal and noble families that lived in castled, fortified by estates. This also is according to history.or.com. Well, if you look at these gated communities, they provide a greater sense of community. There are examples of gated communities that provide a greater sense of community. Look at Kenya, for example. We have this Runda, an estate in Nairobi. We have Roslyn, an estate in Nairobi. We have Edenville, an estate also in Kenya. If you belong to this estate, you are able to identify yourself with the people from that community. You are able to identify yourself as people from the same community, regardless of your social background, regardless of your financial status. All of you come from Runda. All of you come from Roslyn. This will lead to the achievement of SDG number 9, which focuses on sustainable cities and communities. Secondly, these gated communities, they prevent rural exodus. According to a document released in the JSTOR.org, looking at the Brazilian period of 1980 to 1991, a period of economic recession and globalization of agriculture. Well, these gated communities were used to prevent rural-urban migration. Why, therefore, will one want to oppose this? That is why we want to oppose the abolition of these gated communities. Grazie.
Second proposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
The members of the gated communities will identify with themselves. Did you just say? Or maybe I should remind you of SDG number 11 that states that supports sustainable cities and communities, sustainable development. How on earth are we supposed to attain sustainable development as from the SDG if we only confine ourselves and identify ourselves with only the people that we live around? Is that logic? This motion takes me back to the Bible, the book of Jeremiah, where the Israelites had this false sense of security that because of the wall, nobody could attack them. Well, they were brought down, and down they went. These members of the gated communities think that they have security because of the CCTVs. We might be having CCTVs, yes, but it is very easy for me to come and destroy them. Because we have technology that can be able to make these CCTVs operational. My brother, the first opposer, also stated that China developed because they had villages. Well, it is perfectly true. They developed because they had villages, not the gated communities. And maybe that's the reason as to why, when you were mentioning the gated communities, you didn't mention Oyster Village, because that's a village, and we are talking about gated communities. It is because of these gated communities that, as told from The Guardian, 8th July 2016, this is a magazine, that London was unable to develop until the moment when it demolished these gated communities. The gated communities are a way of pulling us back. The gated communities are a way of ensuring only some people, the limited number of people develop, and not the entire nation. The gated communities bring about seclusions and divisions because we know that these members are supposed to live in this kind of houses, that the houses have to be identical. You are only supposed to own these types of cars, limited. I mean, everyone has a freedom of development and I can choose the house in which I have to live. What if I desire to live in this area but I cannot attain such a standard? This is blocking me out from the development that I have a right to. I should also remind you that these gated communities ain't so secure. Taking an example of Nigeria, where the George Zimmerman shot a man dead near Florida gated communities. I mean, they were guards, yes, but this man was gunned down. How do you define security? Because, yes, the guards are there, but these people can still be gunned down. So, gated communities aren't in any way helping the developing communities and the developing nations. Chebukwa Gloria, the second proposer.
Second opposer, you have 3 minutes for cross-examination.
My name is Johnson Aboge from Kapsabet High School. And I want to, in response to the first proposer and the second proposer, who are really lamenting about the issue of social classes due to gated communities. I myself, in my younger years, for my first 7 years of life, I used to live in a slum called Nyalenda in Kisumu. And I can tell you for fact that each and every day we had to have a case of insecurity. Until it used to be normal, and we talked of it only mutedly, compared to the countable number of cases, which are very few in gated communities. But I have one hope for all those who are complaining about having gated communities because of our levels of security and social classes. Because according to president.go.ke, we are able to see very well that President Kenyatta managed to promise us the Big Four agenda. And one of the key agendas in that main agenda is affordable housing. This one is in accordance to our SDG number 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. Hence, it will be able to achieve development in our nation, and our country will no longer be considered as a third world when everybody lives in an organized place called a gated community. Also, these gated communities, they are of high property value and they are very expensive. The investors who build these gated communities, they are taxed by the government. And thus, these developing nations, if they embrace gated communities, they'll be able to levy the tax from the investors and it will help in the economy, hence helping us in the SDG number 8 on economic development. Also, these gated communities, they give us jobs. We will find there, we have guards, we have those people who landscape that community, we have those who mow the lawns. This one is giving the developing nations, the citizens of these developing nations, employment opportunities. Hence, the SDG of decent jobs is achieved. And we do not stop there. SDG gated communities also are run by a rule of conduct and ethics. You don't just go there and do everything that you want to do. Hence, people are able to coexist in harmony because they know that there's a protocol that they have to follow whenever there is anything. Hence, we are able to see that existence is just in peace and harmony and no any other division that we are talking about. When you go to the Rwanda Housing Authority's website, you are able to see very nice images of Rwanda Housing Authority having built gated communities, government-sponsored, in Kigali. And the citizens of Rwanda are paying very low cost for these houses. Hence, you are able to admire, what if all these developing nations, take the example of Rwanda, will be able to live in a place where we are all able to be proud of and call home. Because those people live even in Kibra, those anywhere in shanties in the whole world, they don't like being associated with them. But if we all go to gated communities and a Big Four agenda, we'll be able to smile. Thank you.
The proposers have been asked what should be done in place of the gated communities that they are advocating to be abolished. The opposers, on the other hand, have been asked, for those who cannot afford to live in the high-end gated communities, what happens to them? Proposer number 3, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Instead of having these gated communities, we just learn from London. London had gated communities when it was still developing, and it decided to tear it down as per The Guardian, report by The Guardian on 8th, 2016. Gated communities actually curb development. So we don't want gated communities. We actually want free villages where people can live according to the standard in which they are earning. My brother from Kapsabet Boys, the second opposer, actually said that the gated communities are very, very expensive. And yet in Kenya, we lack a lot of people who are very, very expensive. We have people who are middle class earners, which are dominant, and the low class earners, which are very dominant. Now, if we introduce these gated communities, where do you want them to live? He also said that gated communities are ethical. There is nothing ethical about gated communities, since these gated communities are all about inequality, because not everyone can afford. Then if it is ethical, then it is not standing up to SDG number 10 about reduce inequalities. Then we should get rid of SDG number 10, because the world communities are not, and I repeat, are not ethical. Also, the gated communities are not healthy for developing countries, because these gated communities, let's take an example of the gated village of Kenmosa, which was actually built and established in between 1999 to 2000, when it was fully established. There was nothing else that grew around that Kenmosa. Nothing. Until the other year, 2016, when Hillside started coming up. You can see how a slow rate between 2000 to 2016, a period of 16 years, till we now have a new community settling there, because people who earn low cannot feel free to live around Kenmosa village because they fear for their security. These gated communities, as we are talking about, are also an hindrance to SDG number 1, that is about reduced poverty, because it is all about SDG number 11 and SDG number 10 if we remove these gated communities that will attain SDG number 1. Tobelimoy Dorothy, proposition.
Opposer, you have 3 minutes to respond to your question.
On to the question which I've come to answer. Let's take the example of Kigali, where the treasury of the Kigali government, county government, had allocated funds so that affordable housing and affordable apartments could be built. We look at the Big Four agenda, which our president had officially launched, where the National Treasury allocated 400 billion so that affordable housing could be built. And these affordable housing were to be gated apartments. So I believe you're answered. So I'm Otieno Robert from Kapsabet High, here to propose this motion that states gated communities should be abolished in developing countries. Now, in gated communities, we find that once you are inside these gated communities, there are speed limits. And these speed limits slow down these vehicles that operate in the gated communities. Thus, the safety of all those who are engaged in the gated communities is ensured. Our children in the gated communities can play with ease, and the safety of our residents along the paths and along the roads is assured. We talk of SDG number 3, where we want well-being for all who exist in this world. But how will that well-being be achieved if drivers or those operating different forms of vehicles are busy and carelessly driving their vehicles and overcoming their speed limits? How will we talk of well-being if that is not attained? Secondly, the general security of residents in those gated communities is also assured, because before a person or a visitor enters that gated community to come and see you, the person has to be checked, and it will also be confirmed through you that the person was actually supposed to meet you. Not like in the normal housing systems or the normal community systems where we have a person just coming impromptu at your door and telling you, I wanted to see you today, without organizing effectively. So in these gated communities, the security personnel at the gate confirm with you that actually the person who was supposed to visit you was actually expected and was organized for. We have also quality and organized housing in gated communities. Report by Gafla Kenya states that in the that the Kibra slums keep on growing day by day, and a much bigger percentage of land is taken in slums than is taken in gated communities. Why? I give you an example of in your box where you have to arrange clothes. But if the clothes are not arranged, you find that the space is limited. Once you arrange them, the clothes will be organized. So these gated communities help us have organized housing. And Paul also supports us in 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verse 40, where he tells us that let man do all things in order. Thank you all.
Proposers, you have 1 minute to make a final statement.
Brother, when you get home, remember to congratulate your parents for being able to move from the slums to the gated villages. It really was a great job. We are talking about the development of a nation. How is speed limits inside the gated community going to enhance the development of the entire nation while we are still having accidents on the roads? How is the security, because I have to be checked when I'm getting into somebody's gate, going to improve the security of the entire nation? We are not talking about the security of the gated villages. We are talking about the security of the entire nation. And just in case you really mind the SDG number 10, then we are supposed to abolish the gated communities and introduce free villages where I don't have to be limited to which extent I'm supposed to develop, and I don't have to be limited to which house I'm supposed to live in and which car I'm supposed to drive. The Metkei.
Opposers, you have 1 minute to make a final submission.
Well, my name is Johnson Aboge. Most scholars actually say that a gate shows a sense of direction, focus, and particularity. And from my reading of the Bible and Islamic texts, we are being told that even when you want to go to heaven, and even entering hell, you'll need to use a gate. Hence, we need these gated communities. Now, we all want to live in places where we have sanitation, the drainage is very good, collection of garbage is perfect, and also we are able to see that the health of everyone is well because you are able to jog, knowing that a car will not come from nowhere and hit you because the speed limit is governed there. So we need to look at these gated communities in a way that the Big Four agenda gives us hope that each and every Kenyan one day will live in a gated community. Then we'll now open the borders to all these gated communities and use one gate to all these gated communities. It will still be gated and our SDGs will have been achieved. Thank you.
Faith, I'd like to congratulate you on the way that you elaborated the motion for us, and especially the way you had very good examples of gated communities, not just in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and even India. That was quite good. I'd also like to recognize the fact that you connected with the SDGs, which is quite in order. Glory again, you're a very strong speaker. You had a good rebuttal. And you gave a good citation there that was noted by the judges. Dorothy, you are also a good debater, that is for sure. You gave us a report by The Guardian. However, you said that it is The Guardian on 8th, 2017. 8th, 2017, that was not very clear. Which month since it is a publication. You had a good rebuttal and a good connection with the SDGs, which is quite commendable. The key to your performance was the strong closing statement by Gloria. You came on very strong, and that was very good. The gentleman from Kapsabet Boys, Victor, you broke down the motion very well. Congratulations. And then you gave us good examples of ancient gated communities and cities. And the SDGs number 9 connected very well with the motion. You gave a strong point about prevention of rural-urban migration, which is important to the development of any country. Johnson gave a good citation and connected it well to the SDGs. A good point on taxation, peaceful coexistence, that was quite on point, and thoughtful. Good points that are coherent and well stated. That is a very good show. Robert, you talked about security, well-being, quality, organized housing. They are strong points. The biblical quotation at the end failed to carry because you didn't have time to connect it to what we are talking about here. Johnson, you had a strong closing statement. So generally, I believe that you people have done justice to the motion, and you justify being in the finals in Eldoret, and I congratulate you again. Good work. May the best team win.
Okay, congratulations first to Metkei and Kapsabet for making it to the finals. One thing I would like to acknowledge is that the three of you, all of you are very strong debaters, and that's what makes a team. All of the three of you are very good debaters, and that was good. I only have one comment on Kogo. Kogo, I've seen an improvement, and that is very good. Before, I couldn't hear some things that you're saying, but this time you are convincing, and I heard every argument that you had to put across. Congratulations to both teams.
Congratulations. You are very good teams. I really enjoyed the debate. Gloria, you had a very powerful final submission. But Aboge, you came in, that was quick thinking. That was very creative. And I really enjoyed about heaven and hell having a gate. And that was the turning point, I think, for me. Thank you.